Welcome to Module 4, and in this module you will learn a little bit about the different lift techniques that are possible. For the module check-in, you will not need anything specific to be able to complete this module. So as I said, we're going to learn about the various lift techniques, and at first all we're going to do is talk about the basics of the lifts and what they are. Before we begin, we've talked a lot about the term spine boarding, but we've never truly defined it. So what we're going to do is we're going to define it. So spine boarding, also known as a long spine board, is a long backboard, a long board, a spine board, or a backboard. So they have multiple terms for it. We're going to keep the use spine board throughout this. It's a patient holding device that is primarily in the pre-hospital trauma care, designed to provide rigid support during movement of a patient with a suspected spinal or limb injuries. So that's the next few slides of what we're going to talk about. So the first lift we're going to go over is the 8+ lift, and for those of you who are new, this term will be something that you are all accustomed to. What you may notice that preceptors or other certified athletic trainers will refer to this as the 6-man lift. That is because this summer the name was actually changed. So we're going to begin, and we're going to see that at first the certified athletic trainer is going to come in and is going to stabilize the neck. You want to make sure that you get in a comfortable position because you could be here for a long time waiting for the paramedics to get there. So what you want to do, you want to have 3 people on either side come in and support the athlete. And as you can see, her legs were moved apart slightly, so you can slowly bring them together as long as there's no increasing neurological symptoms. I'm going to pause the video right here because what I want to explain to you is, as you can see, each of the people's arms are overlapping. So the person at the bottom, their arm is going to overlap with the person in the middle, and then at the person at the top and continued. This is to allow additional support and additional strength for the people. What you can also see is we know that with a female, you want to make sure that the strongest person is at their waist because that's what they'll be at the heaviest. The person at the head will instruct the people on how to lift. So a good command is 1, 2, 3, lift, and you lift on lift. Once the patient is up in the air, you then have to have the same commands of 1, 2, 3, lower, and lower and lower. You want to advise your other people and other athletic trainers of how high to lift. So you want to give a landmark, such as someone's knee, elbow, or something that's easily visible around for them to lift to. So as we continue here, you'll see that they lift the patient up and they all have it the same height. The 8th person involved in the spine boarding will come in, will bring the board in, and then the command was to lower the patient. You then want to make sure that the patient is properly strapped in and that a cervical collar is placed on the patient. So you can see that he goes and sizes it, and then what you'll do is you'll slide it underneath the patient's head. And then you'll wrap it around the front and keep it underneath the chin. You want to make sure that that is then secured down. As you can see, during this whole time, the athletic trainer at the head never once moves their hands from stabilizing. At this point, you're going to put blocks in on either side, which will then be the next step for support. And then you're either going to use athletic tape or the pre-made straps to then place the athlete onto the spine board properly with their head stabilized. So this way you can see the athletic trainers on each side will grab the tape and will pull it over, and the person at the head is still making sure that they are stabilizing the blocks until it is properly secured on the head. The next one we're going to show is the traditional log roll, and at this point what you can see is the athletic trainer is going to come in and once again stabilize the head. One thing that we really want to make note of is that you can see that her legs are slightly out of line. That is okay as long as there's no increased neurological symptoms for the athletic trainer to align the legs. At this point too, we're going to place the arm up of the side where the patient's going to be laying, and this is to simply allow the lift to go easier. So they are choosing to do the push. So what they're going to do is you will see them push the patient up to approximately 90 degrees. And what they're going to do is they're going to place the spine board in behind. And we can see that they are, once again, interlocking arms to give the best possible strength for the patient. And the person at the head will once again dictate when the roll is going to occur. And
shoulders up,
they have already discussed of the height the patient is going to go up to. So as they're lifting, one thing I want to note is that you can see the person at the top does not keep the shoulders up quite as much as they wanted. So her shoulders are dipping down a little bit, and we can see that potentially that could be a cause of harm for the patient. But you can see how much harder the log roll is than the 6-man lift. At this point, too, you can see that the patient isn't properly onto the spine board, and this happens a lot of times with log rolls. So what you want to do is, in the case that we had enough athletic trainers, they're going to recruit the help of other people around. So what they're going to do is they're now going to go into a V-slide, in which what they will do is, at the dictation of the person at the head, they're going to pull the patient down and then move them up. When possible, you never just want to scooch them over, because that's where motion can happen. We always want to go in a vertical position, because that's where the least amount of motion will happen. So when a patient is prone, the first thing you want to do when you get to them is to make sure that your hands are the proper way. And although this may sound silly, it's a common mistake that people will make. One thing I recommend is to put your hands how you want them to finish, and then to move them while keeping them still into the exact spot of where you're at right now. So on this one, we're going to do the prone log roll push. So the two people that brought the board in, they are there to stabilize the board. This can traditionally be anyone, and if you don't have enough athletic trainers possible, this is where you can help use coaches to help train. You can see that they're grabbing the straps to make sure that they stay out of the way, and they're actually going to use their feet to help stabilize the board right there. So they're going to push on the count of 3 up, and then they're going to slowly lower the patient while in command of the person at the head. And you can see that once again they laid the straps up, and then once they realize that they're up, they're going to then lay them down so that way they're out of the way. Once again, the patient isn't properly on the spine board, so what they're going to do is they're going to V-slide down and then slide the patient back up so she is properly aligned within the spine board. At this point, again, you can then strap the patient in, and we'll go through the process of putting the C-collar on. Some things you want to make sure of is that the straps on your spine board are good. Sometimes they can begin to break, or the clips don't hold strong enough depending on what type of spine board you have. So one thing you always want to test to make sure is that your straps are holding well, and this is something that should be done at the beginning of the season before you would ever need to use it. And this, like I said before, is also if you're using your own board. Some places don't allow you to. So they're going to once again then tape or use the straps of the patient, and they're going to put this on and secure the patient in. At this point, you can still see the athletic trainer is making sure that her hands are out of the way, but she's still stabilizing. The next lift that we're going to talk about is the prone log roll pull. And this is going to be very similar to the other videos, in which the athletic trainer is going to come, traditionally do the palpating, make sure that this is necessary, and then what they're going to do is once again move the arm up. And the best thing to do at this point is to actually put the patient right up onto the spine board, just as the others. But this is going to have to be in between the clinicians and the patient because of pulling them onto the spine board. So as once again you can see, this is a very good view of being able to watch them interlock arms and keep their head as stable as possible. And you can see that as she went down, that they were actually able to then make the head go back into neutral. Because more athletic trainers and trained professionals were available, we then utilized them to come in and to help with the V-slide down and up. And we used a slightly different camera angle for this, so it made some parts of it a little harder, but you guys are going to be able to better see the strapping in and the putting on of the C-collar like this. So within this, you can see one of the things that they did is they got the strap a little bit caught right there. So that's one thing you want to make sure you keep an eye out for. But this is a good view of being able to put the C-collar on the patient. So you can see that they slid it up under and secured it right in. And then the patient is nice and stable on the board.